I've got Tiffany sitting with us today. Tiffany and I are going to be discussing HR policies and procedures, which is obviously a bone of contention in most companies, especially in the smaller companies where businesses are still proverbially run on the back of a cigarette box. And we only hear about the problems when you end up in CCMA or in disciplinary hearings with companies. So Tiffany, thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
If you had to take a generalized statement of all companies, and we talk about HR policies and procedures, what's the intent?
I think directors or owners of companies perhaps just don't get around to doing them until there's a problem.
And then?
It's help, emergency, crisis. This person has stolen something, I need to get rid of them. Correct procedure isn't followed, you end up paying. Just because someone actually steals something, you cannot, if the correct procedure is not followed, you cannot actually get rid of them. That's a misperception. So correct policies and procedures need to be done. But I think also something that needs to be kept in mind and you need to be mindful of is a disciplinary code is like your company Bible.
So if you're following that, you're pretty covered on its own.
Correct.
Okay. A large percentage of our customers are very small operators that don't have the luxury of HR departments, and they certainly don't have CCMA cases, and they end up in this situation. So I've now caught somebody, to use your analogy, I've caught somebody stealing. It's an open and shut case. I call them in and I say, you have stolen, you are fired. They appeal against me at the CCMA. I end up in the CCMA and the CCMA says you haven't followed the correct labour policy. And I can be sued for X amount of months worth of salary for that employee, and I can even be forced to take that staff member back. What would I do as a small operator with no luxury of staff to handle these disciplinaries? How would I handle this, practically speaking?
I think what the best thing to do would be to get an HR consultant to come in and set up these things for you upfront so that this doesn't happen.
So if I've got that in place, I can then just follow the steps.
Correct.
Okay. And that's pretty foolproof, is it?
Nothing in life is foolproof.
So there's no guarantee with this?
There's no guarantee with anything.
Okay. So I've got the HR consultant in, she's written up my disciplinary code. Now we start, I suppose, on job descriptions and responsibilities and KPIs and all the rest of it. Where does this end?
It doesn't.
So I'm going to be at this for a 6-month period. Is that what you're saying? To get my company all tied up so that everybody knows what the legal policy and procedure is of everything so that I can sit back and enjoy life.
Everything, however, interlinks. So you're going to need to do a workplace skills plan. If your company turns over more than 500,000 per annum, you have to legally comply with that. You need to do an employment equity report. You need to do all these kinds of things which are statutory requirements, but then they fit into your employment equity. With employment equity, you need to now do job grading. Job grading now forms part of your broad-based Black economic empowerment. So all of these things fit together. With your workplace skills plan, that is your training that you do within your company. If that is submitted, you will get money back from the SETAs, which is the 1% that you pay on your payroll called the SDL every month. You can get a mandatory grant back, that 20%. I'm not sure how much I think it would be 1% you would get over the year. You can even get a discretionary grant back if it's been structured correctly. So you will be getting that money back if your training is structured correctly. And all businesses need to do training. On a daily basis, we are doing training within our businesses. Even if you're showing someone how to work Excel on their computer, if you are, from high-level staff to low-level staff, you are showing people how to do things. So that can form part of the training. So it's all sorts of these things that are building blocks that fall into each other. So what our suggestion is that you have a meeting with someone that knows something about HR, an HR consultant, so they can explain to you how all these building blocks fit together. HR is much more than just a tick box exercise. HR is not just hiring and firing, you know, the policewoman, the policeman, all of that. It's a lot more, you know, progressive.
So you've got to, as a business owner, you've got to assume a more holistic approach then towards your company and bringing your employment in. But I mean, Tiffany, this is a hell of a responsibility for a small business operator, you know, that doesn't have these luxuries. You know, the guy employs 5 people, he's got 5 staff members, he's got to do the books, he's got to do the quality control, he's got to do the HR, he's got to do the IR, they've got to do the employment equity, they've got to do the skills, they've got to do the BE, they've got to do the OHS. Where does this end for a business owner?
It just doesn't. It's red tape. It's part of operating a business.
And if you don't, then the corporate, then you're breaking the statutory requirements of law, and you end up in court with massive fines.
That's exactly it. You'll have the employment equity police, as I like to call them, because the Department of Labour, they can impose a fine. And popular to contrary belief, it is a statutory requirement that you do employment equity. BEE is not a statutory requirement. Your company doesn't have to do BEE. However, if you don't do BEE, you are therefore not going, a lot of companies are not going to want to do business with you. Employment equity forms part of your BEE though. So it all fits together. So
it's a puzzle.
It most definitely is. So it's a good idea to get all the people that are involved in this together and around a table so they can make sure everything, no matter how big or small your company is, to get, you know.
Because you'll end up growing into it one day,
exactly.
And then it's too hard to fix because the bad habits have already been set.
Correct.
Okay, if you had to give advice to a company, a start-up company from day one, what would your advice be?
Get it right from day one.
Why?
Because the more staff you have, the more problems you have. More people, more problems. We've all got different personalities, we all come from different places, different cultures, different educational backgrounds. People like boundaries. The more boundaries there are in place, the more all of those things are in place, the easier it is going to be to run your companies or companies. So if you have all these things in place, the more fun you're going to actually have at work because everyone is going to know where they stand.
And the less problems you're going to encounter down the line.
Business owners all think, oh, you know, we're just a family business, or oh, we're just a business in a garage. We don't need all this. You know what? Staff like it. Staff like employment contracts. You then know, I need to come to work at this time, I need to go home at this time, this is what's acceptable, this is not what's acceptable in our workplace. Then they know. You know, there's nothing like left hanging or whatever.
It's true. Business likes certainty. Businesses
don't
like uncertainty. Employees like certainty, and employees don't like uncertainty.
Exactly. So, you can create a fun environment still. Employees like boundaries. And ultimately, you're in business to make money. So if you have happy employees are more productive employees are going to make more money for you because they're going to be more loyal and more motivated. You're going to make more money. And ultimately, you're in business to make money. So why wouldn't you do it?
Brilliant. Tiffany, thanks so much for your time. So the takeout, boundaries, set policies and procedures in place, and make money. Thanks very much for joining us. Please watch our next video.
Thank you.